Alright, so we're going to dive in and do a couple example problems here from the notes. So the first one asks us to say, from the wave diagram, determine the amplitude of the wavelength of the wave and label the crests and troughs. Okay, the first part wants us to determine the amplitude. Well, the amplitude is simply, as we said, is simply the height of the wave. That height looks like it's at about 4 meters. So this value here is gonna be our. I'm gonna have to go back to pen. This is gonna be our amplitude, and so amplitude is gonna be about 4 meters. Because here on the top here, you see it says 4 meters. Alright, now it wants us to determine the wavelength. Well, the wavelength is the distance from one crest to another crest. So let's label our crests first. Let's label our crests in blue. Blue is a nice color. This is the crest, right? This is the next time it reaches a peak. The wavelength is the distance from crest to crest. So from this crest to this crest is the wavelength. Well, the first one's at about 4, and the next one's at about 17. Well, 17 minus 4, the distance is, so the wavelength, lambda, equals 17 minus 4, that equals 13 meters is the wavelength. So wavelength is 13 meters. And so we already labeled the crests on our diagram. So the last thing we're going to do is label the troughs. And let's label that in orange. So the trough, remember, is the bottom of the wave. So here. And then here. And that's it. So the amplitude is 4 meters because it's 4 meters high. And wavelength is the distance from one crest to another crest. Well, the first crest occurs at x equals 4, and the next crest occurs at x equals 17. So 17 minus 4 is 13 meters. Alright, moving on to the next slide here. So wave has a frequency of 3 Hz. Find the period of the wave. Very good. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is that I want to actually write down my equation for period. So period is t equals 1 divided by the frequency. And I'm told that the frequency here is 3 Hertz. Well, I have the frequency and I have the period. The equation for it, I have everything I need, I can solve. I just gotta plug and check at this point. So let's go ahead and write that in here. So this implies that t equals 1 divided by 3 Hertz, and this equals 0.33, and the unit for period is seconds. And that is the answer. Easy enough. Right, so wavelength has a frequency of 59 Hertz and a wavelength of 2 meters. Find the speed of the wave. Well, the speed of the wave is given by a lovely equation here we saw in the last lecture. V equals the wavelength times the frequency. V equals lambda times f. Well, I'm given that the wavelength is 2 meters. And then the frequency here is 59 Hertz. Do I have everything I need to solve? Yes, I do. So it comes back to plugging it in. So the wave speed, v, equals the wavelength, which is 2 times 59. Well, 2 times 59 is 118 meters per second. And that is the wave speed. Okay, now we're told that we have a period of 2 seconds, and we want to know what the frequency is. Well, I know that the equation for frequency is 1 divided by the period. I have the period. I have everything I need to solve this equation, so I'm going to go ahead and plug and check again. So, F equals 1 over T, which is T is 2, which equals 0.5 hertz, because the unit of frequency is hertz. Just like that. Alright, last but not least, a wave has a wave speed of 12 meters per second and a wavelength of 3 meters. It wants us to find the period of the wave. Okay, we can do this. This one might be a multi-step, but we can do this. So let's write down what we know. We know that the wave speed is equal to 12 meters per second. The wavelength is 3 meters, and we want to know the period. Well, the period is given by 1 over the frequency. So in terms of my equations, let's go ahead and write down our equations here. So T equals 1 over F, and V equals lambda times the frequency. This means that the frequency then, rearranging this equation, the F equals wave speed divided by lambda. F equals, make that lambda a little better. Writing on a tablet is harder than writing on a whiteboard. So 12 meters per second divided by 3 meters. 12 divided by 3 is 4. That is the frequency. So I can write that now that I know how I have the frequency here as the frequency equals 1 equals 4. We don't need the equation for it. And now I have everything I need to solve for period. Period equals 1 over F, which equals 1 over 4, which equals 0.25. The unit of frequency, period is seconds. And that is it. So those are the example problems that we're going to work on this week. Next week we're going to talk about sound and music. So stay tuned for that.